Okay, in a previous lesson, we have looked at how we are able to calculate the number of protons, the number of electrons, as well as the number of neutrons, if we actually know the nucleon number as well as the proton number. So in our lesson today, we're going to look at how the electrons are arranged in an atom. So let's look at a simple example of oxygen. Okay, oxygen has a symbol of O with 16 nucleon number as well as 8 proton number. Okay, so for an atom of oxygen, how are the electrons arranged in the atom? Now there are actually some rules to follow. So what are the rules like? So assuming that this is the nucleus. Okay, now the electrons are actually moving around the nucleus. So the path in which the electron move is called shell. So this is the first shell, followed by the second shell, as well as the third shell. So these are shells. Okay, now how are the electrons arranged then? There are some rules to follow. Basically, the first shell can only have a maximum of 2 electrons. And the second shell can only have a maximum of 8 electrons. Okay, and for the third shell, it can have a maximum of 18 electrons, but for your syllabus, you just need to know until 8. So 8 will be sufficient for you for O level. If you're actually going on to study higher chemistry, you will know that third shell can actually hold up to a maximum of 18 electrons. Okay, so please remember the basic rule for arranging electrons. First shell, a maximum of only 2 electrons. Second shell, a maximum of 8 electrons. Third shell, a maximum of 18, but for your syllabus, you just need to study until 8 electrons. So these are all shells that electrons are found. So let's look at oxygen now. How do we draw the arrangement of electrons? Okay, so this is the nucleus. And first of all, we need to decide how many electrons are there. So since this oxygen have 8 protons, it should also have 8 electrons, because we know that all atoms are neutral, therefore it should have an equal number of protons and electrons. So we draw the shells. First shell, there are 2 electrons. So 8 minus 2, we are left with 6. So the second shell can hold a maximum of 8 electrons, but since we only have 6, so we just draw 6 electrons. Okay, so these are the 6. This is how electrons are arranged in atoms. Now, instead of drawing, sometimes it is also we also need to know how to write in numbers. So let's go back to the first diagram here. In this case, as I mentioned just now, the first shell can hold a maximum of 2 electrons, so we just write 2. The second shell can hold a maximum of 8, so we just write 8 here. And the third shell can hold a maximum of 8 electrons. So this is how I can actually represent this atomic structure, this electronic configuration using numbers. So the same applies to this. First shell, I have 2 electrons. Second shell, I have 6. And this is how I represent the electronic configuration of oxygen, 2.6.